So let's start. Today we will discuss about sampling. Can anybody give me an idea of what sampling is? What is sampling? Sampling is a very vital element to field studies and data collection. We do sampling in field studies. Why we do sampling? What is sampling and why we do sampling? First, we have
Because we cannot study a whole large area or whole large thing, so we take a small portion to study
yes, we
or
cannot
examine.
study the whole group, so whole population. So we take a small sample, and what we assume, we take small samples uh, with some assumption. Yes. Why sampling? What is the assumption? Okay, why first we have to consider what is sampling. Sampling is taking a small sample from the population. Taking a small sample. You can see what I am writing on the board. Taking a small sample. So you can see what is written on the board. Yes, can you see? Yes, please speak.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Taking a small set from the whole population. Why we do sampling? Why we take small set? Can't we take a larger set? Yes. Why we take? As Arzu told that um, we cannot study the whole population. Why we cannot study the whole population? That is the question. Why we cannot study? Why? Why we cannot study the whole? Yes?
It's impossible, sir. It's impossible to cover any large area
Why?
for human.
Why? Yes. Why? What is the constraint?
There to draw conclusions.
Confusion, yes, we will come to that. But first thing first, there are two or three main constraints: time, effort, and resources. Because of these constraints, we cannot survey the whole population, isn't it? We don't have much time. If we take that much time, perhaps the whole idea of the research or data collection may be defeated. If we take all the time, we don't have all the time in the world. But if we take all the time in the world, sometimes the purpose of the study is defeated. Is it? If the data comes after 5 years, suppose you are surveying about this pandemic. Uh, if your data comes after your study completes, after one year, then perhaps the data may be redundant. Data may be unnecessary. Data may not be that useful. Data will be useful for future references, but data will not be useful for present, isn't it? So time constraint is there, constraint of time, constraint of effort. We cannot do that much effort for a simple study. Yes, isn't it? So we cannot have all the effort because for all the effort, for a massive effort, we need a for a massive effort we need a manpower. We need a massive manpower. Yes, you cannot do all the effort for yourself. We need a massive manpower, massive team, a big team, and that is not always available. And resources for that, for 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 having that massive team, we don't have resources. Resources means money and other things. Money primarily. You cannot give salaries to a massive team. You can't do the survey. If you hire a massive team around 1 lakh people, then the money constraint is there, effort constraint is there, and time constraint is there. If you minimize the effort constraint by hiring a big team, the resource constraint comes into being, and time constraint is always there, because if your data comes after a large time, say 1 year, then the study may not be that useful. Usefulness is affected. Usefulness is affected, isn't it? So, but there is one instance, that is my question, where we survey all the population. And here the assumption is, first, what is the assumption in taking the small sample, a subset of population? What is the assumption?
Sir, we assume that this small set of population represents the whole population.
Yes, we assume that this small set of population we have chosen as our sample represent the views of whole population. Somehow, if we do the survey in whole population, the result will be the same, almost the same. Okay. So, but there is one instance, one example where we do survey of all respondents.
Sir, in census.
Yes, census. Census of, what is census? That is census. Census is a term used in sampling. We will discuss many terms immediately after this. What you are talking about is census of population, isn't it? We survey each individual. We don't take samples. We hire a massive manpower and we take much time, because there it becomes necessary to survey each individual. Each individual is the respondent. Okay. So that is the census. Census of population is the full form. Census is the sampling term. Census is the instance where we survey all individuals. Okay. There may be other census also. Census of tigers. Okay. So we have some diagrammatic representation here. Suppose you can see this circle or elliptic. Yes.
Okay.
This is called the universe. What is universe in sense? What is universe? Yes. Yes, what is universe? This is universe of sampling. Yes. What is universe?
includes everything.
Every theoretical population which can be there, theoretical population. Like we take the example of the census. What is the universe of the census? Census of population. What is the universe of the census of population? Yes. What is the universe of the census of population? All Indians and all Indians abroad and in India, and all people living in India from other nations also. So, but main population is the all Indians living on Indian territory presently and which are abroad, which are living abroad. That also comes in the universe of census, universe of the population. All theoretical, but we cannot do survey of all these people. So what we do? We do survey of people present in India. We don't do survey people present in UK and other countries. We ask question. The census people ask question from the family, but they don't go and survey. So that is the population. Population. That is the population. That is the theoretical population. Right? We do survey in census also. We leave some. We have to leave some. If they are residing in North America, we cannot question them. Isn't it? Am I clear? Do you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that is population, and that population is still large. Uh, uh, so we shift to census to simple survey. In census, we do survey of each of these individuals. But in normal survey, what we do? We select some individuals. Suppose these individuals. Okay. So that is our that is our theoretical set of samples. That is our theoretical set of samples. Okay. Theoretical set of samples. Theoretical. Why I'm saying that it is a theoretical set, we will come to that. But 1 or 2 are a little percentage of this theoretical setup. And we are assuming here that these individuals represent the views and likings and these individuals uh, represent all the population, all the targeted population. In theoretical set also, some individuals may be out of bounds for survey. They will not respond. If you are doing a questionnaire survey or you are mailing the questionnaire or you are doing interview, some will refuse to answer. Isn't it? It happens or not? कुछ लोग मना कर देंगे देखिए मैं जवाब नहीं देता है कोई कंपल्सरी. So now we have a real set of samples. This is our sample set. This is our sample set. So that is our sample set. And about this sample set, we assume that this represents the whole population. Right? So this is our samples. So this is the. Any question about this process? Yes. Any question about this process?
No, sir.
Okay. So what steps we have to take in this? First step is we define population. First step is, can I drop this? First step is we define the population. First step in sampling process. The sampling process is we define the population. We define what our population is. We define the population. We take the universe and we define the actual set, the targeted population. Okay. Then we decide the sampling frame. There are some steps in sampling process, like we've drawn here, and we have taken this as a sampling frame. Suppose this has come to be our sampling frame. Then we specify a sampling unit. We specify a sampling unit. Like, can you give example of a sampling unit? Can you give me an example of sampling unit? Yes? Yes.
Boiling rice, for example, if the rice are boiling, we can take some example of rices, whether they are completely boiled or not.
Can you repeat? Your voice was not clear of that. Yes.
सर जैसे बॉइलिंग राइस होते हैं सर, उसमें से हम चेक करते हैं कि कंप्लीटली बॉयल हुए या नहीं, तो कुछ ही उसमें से ले.
Yes, that is an example, and perhaps a more clear example is if you are doing survey in the city, then what are your sampling units? You are saying that I am doing survey, ward-wise survey. Ward, you know, there are wards in cities. Okay, so you have to define a sampling unit, and then after that, sampling size. What is the sampling size? Can you tell me? What is the sampling size? We determining sampling size. We have to determine sampling size. What is this sampling size? Sampling size is what percentage? 10%, 5%, 3%. It depends on study, and it decides the intensity of the study. If you are taking 10%, then it is more intense, more comprehensive. If you are taking 5%, if you are assuming that 5% will represent the whole population, then it is less intense than 10%. More than 10% is, I think, it's impractical. So, you take 3%, it is okay. It is believed that behind lower than 3% of the population, if you take as a sampling set, although in some circumstances it can be, but if you are taking lower than 3% of the population, the survey results will be doubtful. The sampling size we have to define according to the study, according to the answers you know. Then we have to make a sampling plan. And that we have to implement that sampling plan. We have to make a sampling plan, and we have to implement that sampling plan. So, what is this sampling plan? What is a plan? What is a plan? Yes. If you want to do a work, a project, you need a plan. What is this? Yes. What is this plan?
Then is a kind of strategy to do something.
Kind of.
So to complete that task.
Yes,
Or organize strategy to complete that task.
yes, Subha. Your voice is not clear, perhaps. Can you repeat?
Sir,
Yeah.
a plan is a strategy to complete a task.
Yes, yes. Strategy and the step by step working, steps in the working, a roadmap. First, I will do this. Then, by this date, I will do this. By this date, I will do that. This is with dates. This is with deadlines also. Roadmap or sampling plan. So you have to properly execute that sampling plan. And then what step will be there? Yes. What step will be there? Yes. Data collection. All this exercise we have done for data collection. We have to survey and data collection. So a huge data is there, and but the whole data cannot be processed. There are some practical difficulties, um, some difficulties about your method. So selecting the processable data, selecting the data to be processed. What data we are going to process? Some data may be error ridden, some data may be not cleared, some data your software or your method is not able to do to process that data. So we select the data to be processed, and then what we do, we process the data. We process the data. We process the data, and what will be the result of the processing the data? Yeah. What will be the result of processing the data? The results. Maps. Sometimes it is map, sometimes it is table. Maps, table, bar charts. That will be the, after the processing and analyzing the data, we produce the data outcome. So that is the whole sampling process. Why we do sampling? Why do we do sampling? Because of the constraints of time, effort, and money or resources. So that is the process of sampling, the main process of sampling. What are the now we come to quickly we will come to the advantages of sampling. What are the advantages of sampling? Can you tell me what are the advantages of sampling?
So it is a time consuming and also
Advantages of sampling. Advantages of you are telling me the limitations. I'm asking about the advantages of sampling. What are the advantages? What are the main advantages of sampling? Yes.
Sir, it makes the data more accurate and readable.
Yes.
Quite readable.
Yes, accuracy is increased. Though it is ironic that we are selecting a set, but it is accuracy is increased. High accuracy. High accuracy is because you can do more. You can invest more energy and more intensity in that. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Accuracy and organization of data is simple. Organization of data a simple organization of data is simple, simpler than doing the whole set. Organization of data is simple. Yes, and scope is high. How the scope is high? One of the advantages of sampling is scope is high. Why the scope of the data is high? Yes. Why the scope of the data is high? Yes. The scope of the data is high because you can do more studies because you have consumed less time and less effort and less energy. What is the scope? Can you tell me what is the scope? Yes. Can you tell me what is the scope? You must have read the scope many times. What is the scope?
Your voice is not coming clearly.
Yes, Abraham.
Sir, your voice is not coming clearly, sir.
Oh, maybe. But I'm recording it and I will post it. Maybe some network issue is there, and I have a sore throat. So maybe. So what is scope is high? What is the scope? How you define scope? Yes, Aksar. How you define scope?
Opportunity.
Opportunity and yes, you're right.
Relevance.
Yes, relevance. Scope is suppose you light a torch. You know torch? How the light goes like this. So all the area which comes under this light is a scope. There is a very simple analogy. Okay, the scope is the coverage, wide coverage of the area. The scope becomes high because you are consuming less time and effort on one subset of survey. You can do another survey also. Okay? So scope is and in suitable. That is obvious that it is suitable and limited resources. It is suitable in limited resources. It is suitable in limited resources. So and low cost, obvious, low cost, in surveying, low cost, time, less time consuming. I've written it or not? Less time consuming. So it is. Its accuracy is high. Organization of data is simpler. Scope is high. It is suitable in limited resources. It's low cost and less time consumed. So these are main advantages of sampling, process of sampling. But if there are advantages, there may be disadvantages, or you can say limitations of sampling. What are the limitations of sampling? There may be some shortcomings of sampling methods. Yes. What are the limitations of sampling? Yes.
The selection of samples is a very difficult task.
Yes. Selection of sample is difficult. And you cannot be sure that this set truly represent. Selection of sample is difficult, and you cannot be always sure that this set represents the whole population. Yes. And
it can be biased sometimes.
yes, it can be biased.
Error.
You have raised a very valid point. Who was it? Yes. Aisha, you have raised a very valid point. Biased. The data may be biased because of on the basis of the preferences and thinking of the collector or the definer of the researcher of the sampling set, who is defining the sample set, his bias may show. Isn't the bias is there, and the sample set change in sample set, changeability of sample set is there. Sample sets sometimes change person to person. Suppose you are sending many surveyors and they choose different sets. The bias is there and change is there. If the parameters change according to personal bias of some surveyor, you cannot do all the survey by yourself. So you hire a team and you send some people, and they have the freedom to select the sample set. Sometimes it is impossible, like in survey of the population, impossibility of selecting a sample. And perhaps the most alarming limitation of sampling process is the surveyor needs subject specific knowledge. That is perhaps the most intriguing. He needs a level of subject specific knowledge. If he or she doesn't have a certain knowledge, certain level of knowledge, then he will or she will do bad survey. The bad results will result. Yeah? So these are the limitations and advantages of. We will in next class we will discuss about the types of sampling. What are the main types of sampling?